Alright guys, so today we are continuing to work on old Rosie here, our 64 Corvair. In the last video we did a valve adjustment and we were able to successfully recoup some compression on our down cylinder. So that was really cool. And so today we're just going to continue on down the list of things to work on to try to improve its running condition. I'm still suffering a little bit of hesitation at stop and a little bit of dieseling. So I think that we are now down today to looking at the distributor, the vacuum advance, the timing, the dwell, and maybe a little bit of a health check on the carbs. So yeah, hopefully we'll make some progress and see where we can get to. So let me get into this and start out by pulling the distributor cap, see what we can find. I can tell already just starting it up for a minute that it's happier with the valve adjustment. Just started up easier and is idling better and whatnot. So that's really cool. I just think that I must have the timing a little bit off, or the dwell a little bit off, or maybe the points need sanded. We'll find out. We'll see. Keep in mind I have no idea what I'm doing and we're just here having fun. So take a close look at this. Doesn't look bad, but what I've got here is a piece of 600 wet dry sandpaper, and I might just give this rotor a little bit of a buff job. Okay, pop that guy off. Take a look in here at what I'm dealing with. Okay, looks like there's still plenty of grease in there, so I don't think I need to deal with that. And take a look at these points a little bit. Yeah, some corrosion and black stuff on those. So I think I can probably improve on that a little bit with this sandpaper. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. If I can get the right screwdriver, we'll be in a lot better shape. We'll spread the points apart a little bit. Maybe I'll fold this one more time just for fun. I know that they make a special tool for this, but I don't have it because I'm not cool like that. But I have a drawer full of sandpaper, so that's what I'm going to use. Just kind of relieve a little bit of the pressure and back and forth on it a little bit. And I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little white stuff on the sandpaper. And the car runs really well. I mean, it's a great car. It's super happy when it's running. I want to try to do everything I can to get it running as best as it can, because that's always more fun. So at this point, I'm looking at probably ready to put it back together. Let's just make sure it's not loose. So this little slot right here is where you stick a screwdriver in to adjust the dwell or the gap. And it's nice and tight, so I think we're good to go there. So I think what I'll do is I will put this all back together again and fire it up with my scan tool on it, and we will measure the dwell and adjust it as necessary and move on to the next step. Actually, I almost forgot, before I put this distributor cap back together again, I think I want to see if I can check the vacuum advance mechanism. So what I've got is my vacuum tool, and I have a kind of a rig put up on it here so I can interact with the vacuum tubing. So I think what I'm going to do is try to use the tube that's already on it. I think that will give me a more realistic shot at if I have a good sealing tube or not down here. So I'll just disconnect it from the carburetor and use it here, plug it into my adapter, Now, I'm not a distributor scientist, so I'm not going to be able to tell if it's working well or, you know, the degree as to which it's being effective. But, you know, a guy like myself or probably anybody can look at it and tell, is it moving? And that's really about all I can get. So we will squeeze on this. And what I'm looking for is for this to start moving and hold. So I'm at 13 pounds. There's 15 pounds, 17 pounds. Let's max that at 17 pounds. And I'm hoping that it's going to hold position, and I'm starting to slightly dip down 14 pounds. That could just be something in my adapter that isn't holding, or this tube down here just is maybe a little old or something, but she's holding and working, so that tells me that when the carburetor is pulling vacuum, it is moving the mechanical advance mechanism on the distributor. So I call that a success. I don't think that I would say, for me anyway, and my understanding, that there's anything wrong with it. So now we can move on. Okay, so I got the distributor all put back together again, and now I'm going to move to the next step, which is going to be checking our dwell and our timing with my timing tool. And I would highly suggest, if you're working on these old cars, to get something like this. I know they make analog ones as well, but you know, for a rookie like me, I tell you, I can't tell the difference between 700 and 900 RPMs on a motor like this by ear. If you can, you're awesome, better than I. But also the dwell reading being digital, it's just really makes it a lot easier to tune, especially when you're tuning the carbs and you can get RPM readings. So anyway, I'll show you how I hook this up. This green wire, I've got a positive, a negative, a spark plug. I think, what do you call this, an inductive wire or something? It goes over the plug wire, and this goes on the negative terminal. That is negative, right? Yeah, the negative terminal of the coil, and that's going to give you, I believe, your RPM reading. When you hook this up, if you take a look, it says on there plug with an arrow. If you can see that, that's going to want to be the flow direction. So you go to number 1, which is always right here. Shortest one goes to number 1. So I'll just place that over the wire, make sure it's nice and loose, and she's happy. And then I go over to here, red on positive, black on negative. And that's it. So I take the other end. She's ready to plug into the tool right here. And immediately I start getting lights, cameras, and actions. Okay, so it's telling me right now that I've got 12.6 volts, which is great. I believe that's kind of ideal. And then what I want to do is set this up for this motor. You hit this function button, you go to advance. This is, I believe, if you want to do an advanced timing, and I don't, I just want base timing. But then you go to dwell, and you see how it's on 2? That's for a 2-cylinder. So I'm going to go up, that's a 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, 5, 6, 8, and 12. So I have a 6-cylinder, best of my knowledge. And so that's set up now for dwell. And then I have an RPM reading that will give me once the engine's running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on dwell. And when I fire the motor up, this is going to tell me what the degrees are. Now, there's pretty wide varying opinions online as to what the dwell should be. But the best I can tell is it should be somewhere between 31 and 34 degrees. So I'll fire up the motor real quick and we will see what it reads. All right, 30 degrees. Okay. I heard that little minor dieseling. After I run it for a while, it diesels quite a bit more than that, but that's kind of one of the problems I'm trying to fix. So the dwell is on 30. I don't know if trying to get it 1 degree more is really worth the the deal with it, taking it apart and adjusting it. I kind of think 30 might be acceptable. So I think maybe what I want to do is go ahead and skip ahead. We can circle back to that if I still have trouble, but I think what I want to do now that I'm all hooked up with the light is go ahead and check timing. So I'm going to fire back up again and we'll check the timing. And as far as I know, again, pretty wide variety of answers online for the timing, but seems like it should be somewhere between 10 and 14 degrees before top center, or however you would say that. So anyway, let me fire it up and we'll see what we got. And the car is cold right now, so the chokes are on. And you can see I'm running 900 RPM, 870, 880, 870, 860. So that's my high idle right now. It might be a little low, but it seems like it's doing okay. And you can see the light on my hand is hitting. So we'll come down here to this plate down here. It's 0, 8, and 16 are my marks. We'll see where it's landing at. Okay, so it's kind of jumping around a little bit. I'm not sure why that would be. It's not real stable in there, but kind of an average view from what I'm seeing is just past the third line, which is 12. It's 4, 8, 12, 16. So I'm thinking I'm about 13, and I think that might be a little bit high, especially if I'm having some dieseling or some lean running conditions possibly. I'm not sure, maybe that might affect it. But I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and lower this down a little bit and see if I can get it maybe somewhere around 11 or so. So what I'm going to do is take my 9/16 wrench and loosen this up, because right now, oh, and you know what? I bet the reason why it was jumping around is because I didn't disconnect the vacuum advance. So let's try that this time. What we'll do is, you don't want the vacuum advance interacting with your system when you're playing here, so I'll just take this and cap it and then plug it. And that one might not be strong enough. I've got a stronger clamp. I'll just cap this over maybe twice and clamp that, and that ought to keep the vacuum advance from initiating. Okay, so that was a rookie mistake, because that's what I am, a rookie having a good time. It's all cool. And so what I'm going to do, I'll go back to where I was at, wherever my wrench is. Oh, here we go. And you can see right now it's tight enough that I can't move it. What I'm going to do is loosen this guy enough that it's kind of still sticky, but I can move it and put a minor adjustment on it. I had that locked down pretty tight. I don't know if you need it quite that tight. Okay, see, I can move it a little bit now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire the motor up, hold the light on the gauge, and then adjust it while it's running till I see it land in more like 10, 11 range. So it's 4, 8, 12, 16. So 8, 12, the 10 should be just right in between those two middle and third marks. So we'll see how we do here. It's a lot more stable now, and it's higher. I pushed it, and that's the wrong direction, it looks like. So now I'm pulling it. Yeah, and it's slowing down now. Looks like right about 12 or 11. I'm gonna pull it back just a teeny bit more. And that looks pretty good to me. That's like 10 or 11 as far as I can tell. So I think that's good. Let me turn it off now. Okay, I don't know how well you can hear me there because the engine's kind of loud, but I was able to adjust it back to about 10 or 11, and it's a lot more stable now with the vacuum advance pulled off. So I'm just going to cinch this up. I don't think I need it quite as tight as I had it, but I think I want to just tighten it up a little bit. Okay, so that's looking good there, buddy. Minor adjustments could be all it takes. So okay, so we've got the valves adjusted, compression's better, we've got the distributor sanded down, the points, we have the vacuum advance checked, the dwell looks good, and the timing is adjusted. So I think what I'm going to do next is take this air cleaner off and take a quick look at the carbs. I want to see, I just want to kind of make sure that the chokes are kind of freely moving, and the one thing that I think that is pretty common is if you're lacking go power off the stop, if you're hesitating, possibly the one of those little pushy things that make fuel up and go, the fuel pump, the wow, I can't remember what those are called. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, I want to make sure that they are working, and it's what makes the fuel squirt into the carb when you hit the gas. So I can check that visually to make sure that those are actually squirting, and we'll call them the fuel squirters. How's that work? That's good for me. So I'm going to go ahead and get this taken apart, and then we will take a look down these guys and see what we can find. Okay guys, so I got the air filter assembly all pulled off, and the air filter itself still looks brand new from last year, so that's cool. Now what I want to do is just take a quick look at these carburetors. I'm not going in too deep. I'm hoping I won't have to tear them apart. I mean, that will be fun and all, but at this point I'd like to just see if I can see if there's anything terribly wrong. The first thing I want to look at is the chokes. I had the car running for a few minutes, and I mean I can feel a little bit of warmth in it, but it isn't very hot, and the chokes really aren't engaged that much, and this one more so than this one. So if I look at this and I just grab the choke rod attached to the spring, it's pretty nice. It's got a nice action. I feel like a healthy spring, and I've got good clearances as far as the clearance between the blade and the throttle or the throat. I think that looks pretty good, and it feels pretty good. But when I come over here, first of all, I have to disengage the throttle to get it on the right clearance, and it does look pretty good. I think I have it adjusted fairly well, but check this out. What is that? What is the clunking? Is the spring dead? Is it disconnected and bouncing off of the bottom shroud? Or I don't know what is going on here, but I haven't seen this before. Maybe you guys can chime in and tell me what on earth is going on here. But that doesn't seem right. That could contribute to some of the rough starting I've got going on. I mean, it's a pretty nice day, and it is June right now, so it probably isn't a huge deal if the chokes aren't going full speed before, you know, fall time comes. But it'd be nice to know what's going on there. So in any case, that's that. The chokes at least are operating, it seems like. Maybe not perfectly, but that's okay. The next thing I want to do is what I was really worried about was if my squirter guys are working, and I'm now remembering that they are called an accelerator pump. So super scientific at this point, but I think I prefer squirter thingies. So anyway, what I want to do is we're going to look right under here, right in the back of that, and I hit the throttle, we should see fuel aggressively squirt out of there. And it does. It shoots all the way to the other side of the housing. So that one's working. Now let's check this one. And I'll hit the throttle. Oh, that one's 3 times better. That one's got way more flow. They're both squirting to the other side, which looks good. But this one, I don't know, that seems maybe weak. Oh yeah, it's just kind of dribbling out of there next to that other one. I wonder if that's part of my hesitation problem. The old accelerator pump problem. If I might need to take the carb apart and take a piece of wire and clear out that hole. Or maybe check to see if the accelerator pump boot is ripped or old or worn out. Well, I wasn't hoping to tear apart these carbs, but man, that might be one of my main issues here. I think, you know, if there's nothing really broken, but you've got 5% of your accelerator pump isn't working, 5% of your timing is too high, and 5% of your points are corroded, that could all add up to, you know, some moderate running problems. So again, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just guessing, but that's how we learn, man. You just try stuff and see if it works and go from there. So I think what I want to do is call it there. No, you know what I want to do is I want to try my Unisync tool before I get done here. What I've got here is this tool called a Unisync tool, and really cool little vacuum meter. You just set this on top of each carburetor while it's running, and you can get a bubble reading to see if they're close. It's not an exact science, and it's not you know, a fancy meter, but it does give a guy like myself you know, clues, and I'll take all the clues I can get, you know, not really having a full understanding of what's going on here. So I know that really to use this tool properly, you need to balance the carbs properly. You need to disconnect them from each other and from the linkage, and there's a process you go through. I'm not doing any of that right now. I just thought, while I have it apart, I'll start the motor up and I will stick this on here just to see, you know, as it sits, do I have a similar reading on both carbs as far as how hard they're pulling. So we'll give that a shot and see what that looks like. Okay. That's reading super high. So what I can do is I can adjust this down so I get it in the middle. So I'm directly in the middle and it's nice and stable. I think that's good. I'll go here and I'm almost exactly the same. It's starting to climb just a little bit, but that looks almost exactly the same. Beautiful. Okay guys, so I think that's gonna about do it. I think what I'll do is get this all put back together again and get it out on the road and test drive it, you know, get some heat going through it and see if I've made any improvements on the running and the idling and the hesitation problem I've got. I have a feeling it's going to be better. If not, I will, you know, the next video is going to be, you know, pulling these carbs off and tearing them apart and checking the innards and cleaning out all the little orifices and the jetways and passages to get, like, I know at least I need to clear out that accelerator pump passage for the squirters. So that ought to be cool. That ought to be a good next video. So the only other thing I want to do is mention, I know some of you have already mentioned to me this fire hazard death trap sketchy situation. I'm fully aware of it. It's totally cool. This is just I'm halfway through my fuel pump conversion. I got tired of the fuel pumps breaking and leaking fuel into the crankcase and dying, and the replacements are no good these days and no good. So I'm converting all 3 of my Corvairs to electric fuel pumps, and So I've got a fuel pump underneath the front of the car, and we were having trouble with it forcing past the Neyland seats, and so I put a regulator on it and a gauge so I can keep better eye on it. And then I just had to put this together because I don't have a flaring tool. So I'm ordering myself a nice hydraulic bench vise mounted flaring tool and some piping and some nuts, and I will get a nice custom piece of supply line coming out of the firewall and feeding this, and then I will relocate this filter to outside of the firewall behind the back wheel as per instructions of just about everybody online and all the advice I've gotten. So rest assured, I know that this is probably going to catch fire and be bad, so that is on the list. But right now I'm just trying to, until that tool comes, I'm just trying to work through all of the little kinks. So I think that's going to about do it, and I think that I'll get this put together, take it for a drive, and hopefully we made some progress. So thanks a lot for coming along. It's been a lot of fun. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next one.